So when a missionary prepares to go to a foreign country, they usually start by doing a lot of research about the area that they're going into. They want to stop and learn about the history of the people, their struggles, whether they're a conquered people or whether they're a conquering people. They want to know what the language of the area is. What is the heart language, the language that people knew since they were a little child? And then they learn that language and learn it well. When they're preparing to go as a missionary, they learn what are the customs, what are the traditions, what are the values of the people. They want to know, how do the people deal with conflict? How do they resolve conflict? They want to look into things like what is the dominant religion in the area? How has that affected the way that the people view God? And what are the influences that make the community what it is? What is the economy, the trade in the area? What are the politics, the governmental structure? Is it an agricultural-based economy or an industry or maybe a tourism-based economy? If you want to work with people and build relationships with them, it's for one purpose, so that you have an opportunity to speak into their life and share Christ with them. Rural ministry is absolutely the same. And just because it's not a foreign country doesn't mean that you shouldn't take the time to prepare for reaching those people. Plus, not all rural looks the same. There are many different types of rural. Some people might define rural as any community of 50,000 or less. And then there's real rural. In South Dakota, we have a place called the McFarthest. It's a location that is a long ways away from a McDonald's. It's a geocache. And if you go there, you can sign your name on this little geocache that you've been there. It's 107 miles as the crow flies to the nearest McDonald's. Or if you take a car like most of us, it's 145 miles. It's a long ways. That's a whole different type of rural. I read an interesting article that came out of the University of Ohio that defined 5 different types of rural in the state of Ohio. And I really think that most every state can come up with a very similar analogy of different types of rural. We have 2 small communities that are actually the fastest growing communities in South Dakota. Both of them are rural. But both of them are within close proximity to our major population area. So again, not all rural looks the same. And even when the demographics of an area are similar, they can be totally different in personality. In the 1800s, what they called the Western expansion saw thousands of people move from the east to the west. And some of them were going for mining. They wanted to mine gold. Some of them wanted to be cattle ranchers. Some wanted to find fertile soil and develop a homestead, a farm. Everybody had a different idea, and they had different values of what made their idea the best one for them. It's interesting that if you were to go back to some of those same communities today, some of those ideals and values are still built into the people of that area. The old struggle between cattle ranchers and sheep farmers is still in existence in some rural areas. Generations later, the mindsets continue. A good research and careful interest in the people of an area will give you a much better understanding on how to relate to them and how to build strong relationships with the people. Getting to know that a local landmark is named after a popular governor or senator can be valuable, especially when you find out that generations later, some of that person's descendants are still in the area. If you approach rural ministry with that just a casual assumption that you know what rural is, you'll likely miss it by a mile. But if you take the time to do your research, it will set you up for the greatest opportunity for success in reaching people in a rural context.